All the time mental health outreach with your host, Sister A. Legree, where we believe that it's important to make hope an option. You can log on to our website at igbattmho.org to find out more about us. Again, that's It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach, providing information and support while encouraging hope and faith. You can log on to our website at igbattmho.org. Yeah, you can definitely do that. You'll get a lot of information, a lot of resources that are on our website. You can also email us at igbatt1@aol.com. Go onto our website, let us know what you think of it. We're in the process of making some changes, but updates for 2024. But definitely log on to the website, email us, write us, just let us know any questions that you might have, any topics you would like for us to discuss, or any criticisms, anything that you're interested in. Okay? So again, what I wanted to talk about today is how to prepare for the future as a single person living with a severe and persistent mental illness. How to prepare for the future as a single person, a person who's living alone, and you've been diagnosed with a severe and persistent mental illness. Again, when we're talking about severe and persistent mental illnesses, we're talking about those illnesses that are so severe that even with medications, right, a person may still continue to have maybe some type of symptoms. Severe and persistent mental illnesses, as I said, we talked about in one of the broadcasts, people may say, well, all illnesses are severe and persistent, right? All illnesses are severe. And that's true, because especially if you're dealing with the illness, of course it's severe. But the term severe mental illness or severe and persistent mental illness is a specific term that's actually guideline that the federal government has given. Is like a specific term. So when we know severe and persistent mental illnesses, you know that there are certain types of illnesses. We know that illnesses that fit into that category are chronic. Individuals can range in severity, but these are usually the more severe illnesses. So it's a particular term. It's actually a definition, a federal government definition, if you will. Not saying that any other illnesses are not severe, but we are talking about specifically severe and persistent mental illnesses. How do you live with that? You've been diagnosed with a severe and persistent mental illness. How do you live with an illness, right? Especially as you get older and you're living alone. You find yourself, you woke up one day and you found yourself 30, 40, 50, or maybe even in your 20s, but you realize, hey, I have this illness and I really don't have anyone. What do I do? Okay? Well, the first thing you want to do is don't panic, right? Don't panic. Don't get down on yourself or anything like that. The fact that you'll listen to this broadcast lets me know that there is an option. There's a way out for you. Because again, there's always a way out. There's always a plan. There's always a strategy. For whatever situation, negative situation, concern that you have, worry, trouble, whatever you want to call it, there's always a way out. It's just a matter of finding the right strategy, talking to the right people, getting the right resources to help you inform your decision, but there's always a way out. So never panic. It's just that you never thought about it. So now you're thinking about it, and it's, for some people, feels overwhelming. But don't let it be, right? Because today, what we're talking about is how to prepare for the future as a person living with a persistent mental illness. Especially if let's say you're alone, a single person, okay? How do you prepare? Number one, start preparing now. So that's number one. Okay, so one of the things that I have here, and again, this is not necessary in particular order, and you may have some other ideas. But number one, if you don't already have, develop a support network, okay? We are not meant to live alone. Many people who are introverted are not really introverted. There are people who have been hurt. There are people who are afraid. There are people who are allowing bad things that have happened to them to no longer trust people, okay? Even as an introvert, I'm an introvert, and I still understand the importance of support systems. Support systems are important. God never created any one of us to live life in a vacuum, to live life alone. Your support systems may not look like mine and vice versa, but you are not meant to live alone. You are not meant to, I don't like people, people hurt me. That's true. People do hurt people. People are mean to people, but that's not everyone. You can't let those negative things cause you to wall yourself in. Because sometimes some of us are so walled in that you don't have anybody. Okay, you on one hand you're like, yeah, I don't have anybody, and I don't want anybody. I don't want to be around people until something happens, and then it hits you. Then you realize you're depressed. Until you have to go into the hospital, and for example, and they're asking you to name a next of kin. Do you have someone that we can list, that we can call in case you need someone? And now you don't have anyone, right? And now you feel bad. You don't have to put up a wall or be angry or anything like that. Now it's time to plan. Number one, realizing you got to develop a support system, right? A support network. It's going to look different for different people. What happens when we're living with a severe and persistent mental illness, sometimes you're so focused on the illness. You're focused on managing your health. You're so focused on what you have to do, the runaround, the medications, the doctor, that you don't realize that you're a person. You don't realize that you're a person. You don't realize that you were put here for a reason, that God created you for a purpose, for a reason, and that the illness doesn't define you. That illness doesn't stop you from being who God called you to be. The only thing that stops you is your view of the illness. If you view the illness as something that's insurmountable, something that you can't overcome, that there's something wrong with you, if you believe all of those negative thoughts and you start acting accordingly, then yeah, you're not going to move forward in your life. You're not going to fulfill the plan that God has for your life. But remember, that is not God's plan. We can't let the illness bully us, right? Because having an illness, a chronic illness, especially when you're dealing with symptoms and you feel different than other people, and you know that you are different from other people. It can bring embarrassment, it can bring shame, it can cause you to kind of withdraw from life without even realizing it. Without even realizing it, you start playing small. You start feeling like you can't do certain things, or shying away from certain things, or feeling like, I can't connect with people, or I got to be by myself. And before you know it, your life gets smaller. It's like for someone who's dealing with anxiety, right? You start out being anxious about being around people. Then you're anxious about getting in the elevator. Then you're anxious about driving. And what happens is, before you know it, your life gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And before you know it, the anxiety has walled you in, right? It's the same thing with a severe and persistent mental illness. Realizing that it's an illness, and it has to be managed. It doesn't have to define who you are. It doesn't have to take total control of your life. You can take control of your life. Remember, you have a destiny. You have a plan. God created you you have a reason for being here. So number one, it's important to develop a support network. Develop a support network by thinking about who you were without the illness, before the illness. Before you allowed the illness to become your everything. Who were you? Right? What did you like doing? Before you started, drinking, before you started using drugs and started getting caught up in prostitution, who were you? What did you like doing? What brings you joy? Look for those things to develop a support network, right? You may say, well, I can't really think of anything. Okay. Then the next thing you want to do, if that doesn't work for you, you can think about support networks, communities that are already built around your illness. So if you have diagnosed with schizophrenia, diagnosed with bipolar, for example, there are support groups that you can get involved with. Excuse me. There are support groups. There are groups like AA. There are groups like alcohol, I said AA, NA. There are all different types of groups. There's NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness. There are so many groups that you can connect with. Because remember, support systems, you want to build them now while you can. You can connect to a church. You can connect to a faith-based organization. You can connect to any organization, any group. You can find what interests you. and then look for a group. If you like to sing, maybe join a local karaoke group, whatever you like doing, right? It's important that you find something that works for you. It's important that you find a group or a support network that works for you, because here's the thing. As I kept saying before, we were not meant to live in a vacuum. But one thing what a support network would do, they will provide you with resources and ideas that you might not have ever thought of, right? You might not know where to go get certain things, what certain type of resources. But the more you connect with people, the more that happens. Because again, don't be, hide behind the excuse, well, I'm an introvert, okay? That does not have anything to do with you not having a support system. Your support network may not be hundreds of people, but it could be one or two, okay? Don't let your, how do I want to say, sometimes we think we're a certain way. Okay, this is how I am. And the reality is, we are that way because of the illness. We're saying that we're that way because we're settling. We're that way because we allow our illness, those negative thoughts, those chronic thoughts, those thoughts that are not helpful. Because if you're having thoughts that take you away from the plan, that take you away from living, that keep you small, then those thoughts are not helpful. But see, the thing about those types of thoughts, they're protective thoughts, because then I don't have to worry about being hurt. I don't have to put myself in a situation where people can take advantage of me, or where I feel vulnerable, or where people will laugh at me, right? So we how do I say? We create this life. We tell ourselves that I'm not this. Well, it's not really true. You don't know who you are. Right? Because who you are and who you think you are is developed around your deficiencies or around other people's deficiencies. Once you allow yourself to live fully, to be fully present, then you can find out really who you are, what it is you really don't like. You are a victim of sexual abuse. You don't really know who you are because that was taken from you, right? You just decided who you are based on something negative, whether it's abuse, physical abuse, whether it's a disease, whether it's a sickness, right? You owe it to yourself to really find out who you are. And the only way you're going to do that is to put yourselves in situations where you may feel a little uncomfortable. But again, those support systems are important. And I harp on that because a lot of people will say to me, no, I don't like people. Think about it. Why are so many of us against people when it's people who have your answers? When it's people who can make life better for you? When it's people out there who can support you? Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. So again, develop a support network. Number 2, as much as possible, auto-renew your medications. Find the right pharmacy, right? First of all, let me back up. Think about what it is that you need to live, okay? In order to live, what would you need, right? Think about, pull out a pen or paper and say, okay, if I couldn't come out of the house for 30 days, there was no DoorDash, there was no delivery, okay, no food delivery, there was no no delivery, no Walmart delivery, nothing like that. How would you live? Okay, what would you need for at least 30 days, right? So that means you would need food. You would have a supply of medications. You want to have a supply of whatever it is that you need, right? You want to have phone numbers. You should have phone numbers to people in case something happens. So start thinking about that. Okay, if you're living alone with a severe persistent mental illness, you want to think about, okay, I should always have enough food. I should always have enough canned goods. I should always have enough tissue. I should always have enough to last me 30 days if I couldn't call DoorDash, if I couldn't call no delivery, okay? Do I have enough to sustain myself? Do I have enough medications? Because remember, I don't have anybody to call, right, in this scenario. So again, you always want to plan. Goes back to your medications. Do you have enough medications to last you 30 days? And it's important to be on auto renewal, which is my third thing. Take advantage of the community resources that are out there. How do you take advantage of them? First of all, you have to know what's out there. Okay? You have to know what community resources are out there, and you want to begin to explore them now, so in the event you need to utilize them, you'll already have information about them. But you can't do that unless you're really thinking critically about what is it do I need. Okay, I'm a person living alone with a severe and persistent mental illness. What do I need to live in the short term and in the long term, right? So short term, having the medications, having the food, as much as possible, knowing with resources. Connect yourself to a community mental health if you can. Agency if you have one in your area. I know some people prefer doing the individual therapist, and that's great. But if you have a severe and persistent mental illness, it's also would be great for you to connect to a community mental health or a community agency, whether it's a peer support or private agency, public agency, because the more people, the better, right? If the only peer person you have is one therapist, what happen if that therapist, has an emergency and you can't get to him or her, right? But if you're connected to an agency, you have a team, right? So the chances are, if you can't reach your particular psychiatrist or your particular therapist, there is someone there that can help you, that can support you. So again, when we talk about how do I prepare, how do I live as a single person with a mental illness, it starts by, number one, preparing now. Number two, thinking about what you need critically. What do I need, right? Don't do like I do sometimes, and I know some of you do it too. When you say, okay, let me put together a emergency kit for my, in case I get snowed in, and then you go and you just pull any crazy, not crazy, but any canned goods. Okay, I'll put this in here, I'll put this in here, I'll put this in here. Things that you're not even really going to eat, right? That you don't even like. You just picked it up just to have in the, to say you have a kit. No, you want to really think about, I need to put together, what is it do I really need? Okay, I'm living alone. I don't have the luxury of calling people, right? What should I do, right? I need to start thinking about what am I going to do. But again, if you're listening to me, you are going to have people to call because you're going to what? You're going to start developing a support network. How do you do that? Number two, you're going to start looking for groups. You're looking for agencies that you can join. Three, if nothing else, you're going to connect to a community mental health agency, a peer support agency. You're going to connect to NAMI. You're going to connect to other people. If nothing else, these people can kind of provide the support, can provide the guidance, and can be there for you as much as you need to. So that's what you're going to do, right? The next thing you're going to do is, okay, number one, let me go over this again. Develop a support network. Come up with a plan. What do you need to do? Develop for 30 days. Connect with a community mental health that has a variety of services and that is connected in some way to the state. That's even better if you can do that. And then you want to auto-renew any medications, anything that you need to have. You want to, as a single person, you want to always make sure that you have your appointment scheduled. You want to make sure that you have your doctor appointment scheduled, that you're prompt. You want to make sure that you connect with people, okay? That's so, so important. And then also what you want to do is not get down on yourself, right? You don't want to get angry about the situation that you're in. You want to realize, hey, I'm in this situation because, the choices I've made, because of some things that have happened, but I'm going to make a difference, right? There's nothing wrong with me because I don't have a support network, but now that I'm getting older, now that I realize that I'm dealing with an illness, a chronic illness that needs to be managed, I understand that managing my illness is going to involve me connecting with people. It's going to involve me connecting with support systems, right? You don't want to wait until you need someone. I see a lot of people are bitter, and they're bitter because they need someone. They have to reach out now, and they don't like it, having to reach out now because they don't like the way it makes them feel. They don't like feeling vulnerable. They're embarrassed, or they think people are looking at them in a certain way, and that's not the case. So again, it's really important for you to prepare to plan now. If you need some ideas, give us a call. Reach out to us, 1-800-216-9015. Email us at igbattmho igbattmho.org. Go into our website, or you can email us at support@igbattmho.org. Okay? So definitely preparing is the number one thing that we can do when you're living with a severe and persistent mental illness. I'm just looking because my computer is about to go down. So that's so important. How do you prepare for the future as a single person? Well, number one, realize that you do have a future to prepare for. Number two, pull out a pen or paper and begin to write down what you need. Write down what you need. Also, you want to begin to think about the people in your life who you can reach out to, right? You want to think about the people in your life that you can reach out to. And you may say, I'm sorry, my computer was acting up here. You might say, well, I don't have anybody. This is a time to develop support networks, okay? This is a time to do that. And again, the network will look different. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch of people. It doesn't mean you have to go somewhere and be the